Somewhere out there, more than 10 billion light years away, there is an object so large that our minds were never truly built to understand it. We can talk about it, we can measure it, but to actually picture it, to hold its true size in your head, is something the human brain simply cannot do. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why. It is not a star. It is not a galaxy. It is a hole in space itself. And it may be the single most massive object ever discovered in the entire universe. Its name is TON 618. And by every rule we understand about how the cosmos works, it almost shouldn't exist. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just how big TON 618 truly is, a number so vast it stops feeling real, but why its very existence is one of the great unsolved puzzles in all of astronomy. Because this isn't just a story about something enormous. It's a story about something that, according to our best science, may not have had enough time to form. And yet, when we point our telescopes into the deep past, there it is, waiting. So something this colossal shouldn't have been able to grow so large, so quickly, so early in the history of the universe. It breaks the timeline. It challenges what we thought we knew about how these giants are born. And to understand why, we have to go right back to the beginning and build up to it, one careful step at a time. So let's start where every impossible thing starts, at the very beginning. To understand TON 618, you first have to understand what we're even looking at. And here's the strange part. We can't actually see it. No one can. A black hole gives off no light of its own whatsoever. It is, by its very definition, completely invisible. It emits nothing for our eyes or even our most powerful cameras to catch. So everything we know about TON 618, we've had to figure out indirectly. Like detectives, reconstructing something we can never look at head on. A black hole is a place where matter has been crushed together so tightly and gravity has become so overwhelming that nothing can escape it. Nothing at all. Not a spaceship, not a planet, not a star. Not even light itself, the fastest thing in the entire universe, moving at 300,000 kilometers every single second. If light cannot escape, then nothing can. That is what makes a black hole truly unlike anything else in existence. There is a boundary around every black hole, an invisible line drawn in empty space. On one side, escape is still possible. But cross that line, and there is no coming back. Not ever, no matter how fast you move or how hard you try. We call that boundary the event horizon. It isn't a wall or a surface. It's simply the point of no return. And everything we're about to talk about lives on the other side of it. So, if it gives off no light, and we can never see past that boundary, how do we know TON 618 is even there at all? How do you measure something that is, by its nature, invisible? The answer is the one thing a black hole can't hide. Its appetite. As gas and dust and even entire shredded stars fall toward it, they don't just drop straight in. They begin to spiral, swirling around the black hole, faster and faster, pulled into a great cosmic whirlpool. And as they spiral, they crash and grind against each other, heating up through friction until they glow. First red, then white hot, until they blaze with the light of trillions of suns. This blazing whirlpool has a name: the accretion disk. And it is one of the brightest things in all of existence, a ring of fire circling an invisible mouth. When a black hole feeds this violently, the beacon of light it creates has its own name: a quasar. And here is the extraordinary thing. TON 618 is one of the brightest quasars we have ever found anywhere in the sky. So astonishingly bright that we can detect it clearly from over 10 billion light years away. Think about that. An object we cannot see, announcing itself across almost the entire width of the observable universe, purely through the light of everything it is devouring. And that immense distance carries a hidden gift. Because light takes time to travel, looking far across space is also looking far back in time. When we observe TON 618, we are not seeing it as it is today. We are seeing light that left it over 10 billion years ago. Light that has been racing toward us since long before the Earth or the Sun or even our galaxy as we know it existed. We are seeing this monster as it was when the universe itself was still young. Now, let's finally talk about size. And I have to warn you, the numbers are about to stop making sense. That isn't a figure of speech. Our brains evolved to judge the size of things we can walk around, or at most, look up at. They were never designed for this. So we won't just throw a number at you. We'll build up to it, one step at a time, until the scale becomes as real as it possibly can. Start with something familiar: our sun. It is so vast that you could fit more than 1 million Earths inside it. 1 million. Already, that number is almost impossible to truly picture. The sun makes up more than 99% of all the mass in our entire solar system. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid combined is barely a rounding error next to it. That is our starting point. Hold on to it. Now, most large galaxies have a giant black hole sitting at their very center. Our own galaxy, the Milky Way, has one, and it holds about 4 million times the mass of our sun. 4 million suns crushed into a single point at the heart of our galaxy. That is already a number that defies imagination. It sounds like the ultimate object. It is not. Because TON 618 makes even that cosmic giant look like nothing at all. The measurements suggest TON 618 holds roughly 66 billion times the mass of our sun. 66 billion. Say it slowly. If our galaxy's own giant black hole, 4 million suns, were a single grain of sand held in your palm, then TON 618 would be a fistful of sand. Thousands of grains. It is not a little bigger than the black hole at the center of our galaxy. It is thousands of times more massive. This is not a step up. It is a leap into an entirely different category of object. Now, a moment of real honesty here, because the actual science matters, And it's part of what makes this so fascinating. That 66 billion figure comes from measurements made back in 2004. A later study, in 2019, took a fresh look and revised the number downward to somewhere around 40 billion times the mass of the Sun. So which is right? The truth is, measuring something this distant and this extreme is genuinely difficult, and the honest answer is that there's still some uncertainty. But notice, even the smaller estimate, 40 billion suns, is so staggeringly large that the debate barely matters to us. Whichever number is closer to the truth, the conclusion is the same. This is one of the largest black holes ever measured, so rare, so extreme, that it belongs to its own class of monster, an ultra-massive black hole. But mass is just a number on a screen. What does that actually look like? Let's turn it into something you can almost stand next to. The event horizon of TON 618, that point of no return boundary we talked about, is so wide that light itself, moving at 300,000 kilometers every single second, would take weeks just to cross from one side to the other. Weeks. Light can travel from the Sun to the Earth in about 8 minutes. Here, it would journey for weeks and still be inside a single object. Let's make it more personal. Our entire solar system, the Sun at the center, and all the planets stretching out, all the way past Neptune, across billions of kilometers of space. That entire system would fit inside the boundary of TON 618. And not just barely, it would fit many times over and simply vanish, like dropping a marble into an ocean. You could pour thousands. And here is where it stops being merely huge and starts being genuinely strange. Remember what we said earlier? That looking this far away means looking this far back in time. We are seeing TON 618 as it was more than 10 billion years ago, when the universe was only a fraction of its current age. Which means this monster wasn't slowly assembled over the long, patient lifetime of the cosmos. It was already this colossal when everything was young. And that raises a question that has genuinely troubled astronomers for years. How? How did something this colossal grow so unimaginably big, so incredibly fast, so early in the history of the universe? Black holes grow by feeding. They pull in gas and dust and stars and slowly add that mass to themselves. But feeding takes time. There's even a natural speed limit to how fast a black hole can consume matter. Grow too greedily, and the intense radiation from all that superheated gas actually pushes the rest of the food away. So even eating constantly, at the absolute maximum rate that physics allows, there may simply not have been enough time in the young universe for a black hole to reach 60 billion times the mass of the Sun. The clock, quite literally, doesn't seem to add up. It's a little like walking into a forest that you know is only a few years old and finding, right in the middle of it, one gigantic ancient redwood already towering hundreds of feet over everything around it. The tree simply shouldn't be there yet. There hasn't been enough time for it to grow. And yet, there it stands, impossibly, casting its shadow over the young saplings. That is TON 618, a giant that grew up faster than the universe should have allowed. This is one of the real open puzzles in modern astronomy. Not a settled fact dressed up as a mystery, but a genuine question scientists are still working to answer. And they do have some very compelling ideas. maybe these giants didn't start small at all. One idea is that in the extreme conditions of the early universe, enormous clouds of gas could have collapsed directly into black holes that were already thousands of times heavier than the sun, skipping the slow beginning entirely, giving them a massive head start. Or maybe the answer is collision. Countless black holes formed in the crowded young cosmos, and over time, they found one another and merged. And then those merged again and again, snowballing generation after generation into something monstrous. And then those merged again and again, snowballing generation after generation into something monstrous. Most likely, the truth is some combination of both. A head start and a long history of feeding and merging. The honest answer, though? We still aren't certain. And I'd argue that's the most beautiful part of all. TON 618 isn't just a record holder sitting quietly in a textbook. It's a clue. A question the universe has handed us, written in the light of a 10 billion-year-old fire. And we haven't fully solved it yet. So let's do the one thing we could never truly do. Let's stop looking from a distance and approach it. As you fell toward TON 618, something would feel deeply wrong. Because nothing would feel wrong at all. There would be no wall to strike, no surface to hit, no violent boundary. The event horizon, that final line of no return, is just an invisible point in empty space. A line beyond which every possible path forward, every direction you could choose, leads only deeper in. You could not turn around, because there would be no around left to turn to. Behind you, the light of the entire universe, every star, every distant galaxy, all of it, would bend and gather and shrink into a single glowing ring, growing smaller and smaller. And ahead of you, nothing. Pure, perfect black. And here is perhaps the strangest truth of all. For a black hole this enormous, you could cross that final boundary and feel absolutely nothing in the moment you did. No flash, no pain, no barrier. For smaller black holes, the crushing forces would tear you apart long before. But TON 618 is so vast that the crossing itself could be utterly gentle. You would simply pass a line, beyond which the rest of the universe, everything you have ever known or loved, is now forever unreachable. Not far away, unreachable. And to anyone watching from far away, they would never even see you arrive. Because of the way this immense gravity bends time itself, they would see you fall slower and slower and slower still. You would appear to freeze at the very edge, hanging there, motionless, dimming, your light stretching and reddening, until, at last, you simply faded from existence. To them, you would never quite fall in. You would just vanish, forever frozen at the edge of the dark. It's easy to hear a number like 60 billion suns and let it just wash right over you. Our minds go numb to numbers that large. They become just words, abstract and weightless. take a moment now, at the end of all this, and truly sit with what TON 618 is. It is a reminder of the sheer, almost violent scale of the thing we live inside. We spend our whole lives here on one small blue world, worrying over small blue world things, our schedules, our worries, the boundaries of our days. And out there, right now, quietly, 10 billion years and 10 billion light years away, sits an object that could swallow our entire solar system without so much as noticing it was there. One that was already ancient, already monstrous, before our sun had even begun to form. And yet, here's the part I find most moving of all. We can't see it. We may never fully explain how it came to be, but we found it. From a small planet orbiting an ordinary star, using nothing but glass and mathematics and patience and centuries of human curiosity handed down from one generation to the next, we reached across the entire observable universe and we measured a monster we will never touch. That too is part of the scale of nature. Not only how vast and how ancient the universe is, but how far a single curious mind can reach into it and understand. But as staggering as TON 618 is, sitting at the edge of the observable universe, it may not hold its record forever. And it isn't even the strangest thing hiding out there in the dark. Because you don't have to travel 10 billion light years to find a black hole. Some of them are hiding much, much closer to home. One of them near enough to be called a neighbor. And that raises a question even more unsettling than how big can they possibly get? That is exactly where we'll go next. Thank you for watching. If this gave you a little more wonder than you woke up with today, then it did its job. To keep exploring the scale of nature with us, consider subscribing. A new documentary every week. The videos on screen were picked for you. Until next time, keep looking up.